Good morning. Today it's about 7 a.m. right now. I have had breakfast, posted on social media, gotten dressed, all of that good stuff. So it's time to get into my actual day. I have a bunch of scaling to do for the things I'm going to make. I have 3 primary buttercream recipes, and then I'm splitting those into several different batches. So once I get into it, I really want to focus. I really like to get out in the morning, do a little neighborhood walk, get a coffee or tea just to leave my apartment, get the blood flowing because I work from home. And so I'm going to do that right away. Sometimes I like to wait, scale first, make a recipe first, but I'm just going right away. And so I'm going to go do that, come back, scale, get into my baking, and hopefully push through as much as possible depending on what I get to today. I may go to yoga tonight. I may also get into some editing work that I really do need to do. So we will see how the day goes, but I hope I can fit a lot in. I hope everything goes really well. Hopefully I don't have to redo anything or rework any recipes. I hope they're all in their final iterations and I can just zoom through everything.
Especially during a long baking and filming week like this one, where I will have 5 to 7 or 8 days in a row of really long days, a lot of filming. And when I'm filming recipes, those recipes often take 2 or 3 or even 4 times longer than if I'm just preparing them to make for myself, because I need to be very careful about how I'm weighing out everything, making sure everything is aesthetically nice, stopping to take photos, stopping to take different types of videos, repeating some motions, just all of that. It takes me a lot of time. And so these days get to be really long. And so as the week goes on, I find that usually the beginning of the week, I have a lot more energy and motivation to just jump in and get started and get going. And as the week goes on, I really appreciate having in and penciling in the time for myself to step away from my kitchen, either first thing in the morning or during a lunch break or at the end of my day. And especially working for myself and by myself and from home, I really appreciate those times to help keep me motivated and on task and excited about the work that I'm doing, instead of just being holed up 100% of the time in my home and kitchen. So as you saw there, I took a bit of a longer walk through my neighborhood to get coffee in the morning, and then with my coffee and with my earbuds in, listening to either a funny podcast or a comedy show or something like that, then I get started with my scaling and getting everything ready. And by the time I've had my walk and my coffee and my kitchen is cleaned and organized, then I really am excited to jump into all of my baking tasks and filming for the day. And usually the sun is also in a really good position to start filming around that time as well. So especially later in my weekdays, 5, 6, 7 of my baking week, those are the ways that I really like to start my morning. Most of the time, my bakes are quite different, even if I'm making similar types of things during the same week, like 8 or 10 batches of macarons or something. But with this ebook in particular, I'm making so many buttercreams, a lot of them basic buttercreams. And so I had so many white vanilla buttercreams in my camera roll that when I'm doing something like that, I will also usually have a little slip of paper, I didn't show it here, that just has the recipe name, just to keep things really organized with my filming. All right, so my morning bakes are done, finished, filmed, and then once again, lunch break, going back to my meal prep, which generally by the end of the week I start getting sick of, but the system works, so I try to make delicious things. Usually I will also use my lunch break to either watch something or listen to something, or I will catch up on my schedule, just check in, make sure everything's going well. Though, as you've probably been able to tell throughout these past day in my life kinds of days, I am a very organized person. I thrive off of having a million lists and a bunch of different calendars. So I am generally always checking in with my schedule, with my list, making sure everything is really good to go. So yes, I will sit down and properly look at everything during my lunch breaks, but that is generally something that's also an ongoing process. The most important thing for me to check in about around the middle of my day, especially on a filming day, is that I have a limited number of hours of daylight, and I also have, especially this far into my baking week, a limited reserve of energy, and I don't want to burn myself out. So usually in the middle of my day, that's when I start checking in with myself. How much longer is it going to take for me to do any given task? Am I on track to finish everything I had planned for the day? Or are things taking longer than I expected, shorter than I expected? If they're taking longer, should any of my afternoon tasks be moved to tomorrow? Or will that make tomorrow too chaotic? Should I really push through, make sure everything gets done today? Or should I move it, try to either move on to editing today or take some more rest today? Whatever it is, that's the kind of evaluation I will generally make midday. It might not look exactly the same as the way I would check in with a schedule if I'm working in a pastry kitchen. I would say that back when I worked in a pastry shop or in a restaurant or even back in pastry school, that was a very common thing to have that check in either with myself, with my coworkers, with my superiors, to be like, are things getting done? Will everything get done? Do we need to get into overtime to get everything done? And kind of go from there. And depending on the day and the tasks and all of that, there might be a different answer for that day to day. But it's a really good practice, I think, to have that checking in with yourself and your schedule. Again, making sure that everything is fitting in, that you're not burning out, all of that. For this week, one of the things that was especially difficult for my schedule was really keeping up with dishes, both because there were just so many things that required so many little dishes for scaling everything out, weighing everything out, and taking pictures of all the ingredients, but then also because on top of this buttercream ebook I was filming, I was also working on some recipes for my cake scraps ebook, and both of those things were just using up all my tiny dishes and needing to use my larger mixing bowls and whisks and paddle attachments over and over and over again. And so there was always the question of, can this be one load of dishes and I don't have to deal with it? Or do I need to turn around and use this right away? Do I need to wash this by hand? Should I take the time to do that now? Should I wait a little bit? So yeah, just dealing with dishes and keeping my kitchen clean in a busy week like this is generally harder and more unpredictable than a calmer week where it's just a few macarons or just a few pastry recipes. Luckily for me though, one thing that is quite predictable is filming the filling of my macaron recipes, both making macaron shells and once I get to this filling process, I have a way that I like filming these. It just works really well for me. It works well for creating both horizontal and vertical videos. I like the style. And so that is something that I always know how much time it's going to take me and when I can get it done. All right, it is the end of my baking day. Definitely forgot to drink a lot of water, so doing that now. I finished all my macarons. Everything is good. Keeping up pretty well on dishes. That's awesome. It's about 5 p.m. I have yoga at 7, so I'm gonna put in at least an hour of editing before I get ready and go to yoga. But all in all, I'm really happy. I crushed my to-do list today. Tomorrow I have 5 macaron fillings left to make, and then I have another baking project to do after that, but it is a very reasonable amount of work. So I think Friday I'm going to be able to run a lot of errands, do my macaron photos, and kind of round out my day that way. And then that will be the end of my baking week. So things are looking really good.
I'm gonna get to my editing, finish up my cleaning, and then take the rest of the night off.
Okay, I have to give you this little preview of this tiramisu recipe I was working on. I gave it to so many people in my building and in the cafe next to me and at my yoga studio, and everybody just raved about it. I can't wait to share the recipe with you.
I just realized I forgot to use my mic earlier. Sorry, that was probably terrible quality, but that's fine. We'll live. I did not finish all of the editing I wanted to. Oopsie, I'm running a bit behind there. But it is my goal for this year to have a better work-life balance. So I'm going to yoga anyway. So I'm going to call it a wrap on my baking. I might edit a few more photos, but after yoga, I'm mostly going to call it a night. Have dinner, clean up again, finish cleaning. And then, yeah, that will be that. Tomorrow, I'm going to get into hopefully one final day of baking for this project, and we'll go from there.
All right, like I said, I'm pretty much done for the night. I'm going to yoga, bring some of my new tiramisu recipe to the teachers at my yoga studio, and then that is going to be it for me filming. I hope you are enjoying this look at the week in my life. I know it is getting pretty long, but I also wanted to give you a realistic look at how long it takes me to get everything done, and just this whole process of filming and recording, even before I get to the editing process for any of these ebooks or videos that I'm working on. Thank you so much for still being here, if you are still here, and for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. I have 2 more videos in this baking week, another day of baking, and then finally all of the macarons and filming them all together, and I can't wait for you to see the final results.